Hello, I want to welcome everybody to a Seed House session. We're here at the new Makerspace and blessed to have a special guest here, Ibiyinka Alao. This is actually our first video series that we're doing from our new collaborative art space in the town of Tamaqua. We're so excited. We have Brian here, Tie-Dye TV, the whole setup, the whole entire kind of studio now with our new setup. And yes, I just want to introduce everyone to Ibiyinka. So blessed that you're here to join us, and we have one of his amazing paintings that we're going to hear a little bit about as we talk in our conversation. This painting in particular is called Eternity in Our Hearts. And it's amazing. We were talking before just about the journey of art and how the many different forms it goes through. So I'd love to hear from you about, the root of this painting, the seed that was planted.
Yes, thank you so much, Kevin. It's really wonderful to be here this afternoon. It's been a great pleasure of mine knowing you as a person. And I remember the first time that we had an event, you had hosted me at the Seed House, and that was one of the most memorable events I ever had. And one of the things that kind of was astonishing to me, and in a very pleasant way then, was the fact that as an artist, you really understood how to allow a space to grow into an artist world. And so because there were, we will say, maybe about 40, 50 people that came to that presentation, and everyone, it just felt so natural. I felt like a storyteller, just having a conversation with everyone that came, and just really beautiful. So I appreciate that, as an artist, you're able to make a space become what an artist world is like. And then being in this space, oh my God, look at just the magnificence of it. Since yesterday, it's been a pleasure getting to know, and I know a lot of greater things will come.
Yeah, and I actually think that was another first, basically, years ago when we first had met, and I had seen you touring around the area, and I reached out to contact you to come participate in things. And I think that was one of our first events in that space of trying to bring people together. So here we are at another first. So it's always exciting to have you around in the area. Yeah.
I think it's beautiful. And as artists, this is why we love to do what we do. My work is as the arts ambassador for the United Nations, and that came about because I got the chance to represent my country of Nigeria in the United Nations International Arts Competition. Ended up winning the first place among 61 countries. And when I got to the United States, I was asked to serve as the cultural ambassador, as the ambassador for the arts, so using art as a tool for peace building, which is, as you know, very important in our world today. Sometimes communications break down between people. Nations, diplomats, representatives are unable to get beyond the politics of what they practice at home. But art generally shatters that. And so I think that's why it's important that as communities, if we help people to look more at the art and find the solutions that art has to offer, I think it's going to be good for everyone. All good art have two sweeping characteristics: that they embody a message within an idiom of communication, that, just what we are doing right now, that we tell a story from artist to the observer. Like if somebody has never seen a microphone before, you can articulate to the person what a microphone looks like, or you can draw a picture of a microphone. So many of us are used to that storytelling aspect of art. But the second one is that all good art possesses a sense of mystery. There's always the part that is unknown, and it's fascinating. We want to keep knowing it. The more time we spend with it, the better we get to understand. And this mystery in art really does help us to connect to our spiritual side. You know, we know that things are more than the ordinary eye can see. Most of the time, the societies we live in, they concentrate on that first aspect, which is just telling a story and not looking at the solutions that the mysterious side of art can offer. And that's why we get into a lot of trouble with art, because we don't exploit, or we don't explore, its full potential. And again, that's why I think that what you guys are doing here is just pristine, because here nobody really cares about hiding the mysterious side of art. You really do try to get it out. And I think in this town, in this community, as it grows, you will see that it does help to, to bring the community together.
Yeah, and like you're saying, just providing space for people to be able to explore, and those are, and some of the things that I think about, with core artistic things is, again, of just, first just experiencing the world around you. Yes. And I think that's what we all do as people, is we try to experience what's around us, and then it's all about then expressing that experience, and I think those are the core elements as well, and trying to figure out to find that balance in providing space and providing areas and outlets for people to be able to take their experience and express it in whatever way that can be. And the more places we have, mental, physical, spiritual places, whether it's athletics or different spiritual practices or artistic creation, just ways to express what you're experiencing as a human being. And I think, some of the cores of, what we're trying to do, and is, like you're saying, with just being able to explore these different things and have a playground, because that's what's missing in a lot of the areas and communities, not enough space to explore.
And also, I do think, for example, in my culture, the Yoruba culture, the word, I think maybe you and I had a conversation about this before, the word artist, the word for it is Oluya in Yoruba, and Oluya translates to mean a madman.
Wow.
And when you're a child and you hear that, because it literally means someone that makes beautiful pictures, but also means someone that is mentally unstable. And as a child, you kind of feel ashamed of it, because you know how children kind of treat each other, so they'll laugh at you and say you're a madman and all those things. But then as you become an adult, obviously that's why I'm telling you now, I'm proud of that heritage, because in the world we live in, isn't it better to be mad anyways? Because the mad is what creates something like this. Mm-hmm. If the society were always agreeing with you all the time, then you need to check yourself that maybe there's something not original about what you are doing. And it is a thin line that separates ingenuity, being creative, and being mad. So let's be mad. Let's not limit ourselves to what we just see. If we see something wrong in the society, I think the solution always starts from our heart. And where a space is provided to be able to do that, it just makes it easier, because you see people come together and then, try to think. I can't tell the number of times, even just before we started this, that, we've talked about events and things that can spring up as a result of coming together.
Yeah, that's so important. Just, I think, like what you're saying, like, we've been talking a lot about this in our creative community, just about being able to see the whole of things, and not just because now in our society, in our country in particular, things get so divisive, so one-sided, left and right, up or down. It's it's really gotten in that way, and that's why I think as artists, our job is kind of really to be able to take the whole thing and be accepting and open and seeing the whole picture, because there's a story to both sides. It's not just one side or the other. There's understanding of why why this person is like that or why that person, that you might not understand, that you don't want to be so quick to judge this or that, because you don't know the whole story, and a lot of times that's where you do learn, like you're saying, from the other side, and oh well, this is that way because of this and the other thing, and you can see how these things progress. So yeah, very interesting. So let's shift gears and let's just talk a little bit. I love you. We were talking a little bit before about something that I just really love is just seeing art forms go from one step to the next step as a kind of like a metamorphosis, and then gains almost. And I'll let you get into this in more detail, but just how even new art forms can even spawn out of new combinations of things that might not have ever been meeting together. But talking about a little bit of the journey of this painting and some of your artwork.
That's right. So in West Africa, we describe art as frozen music, so that anytime you see a visual interpretation of art, we believe that the music is. You can't do the same thing in music, just that is the liquid form of it. And if art is frozen music, it means writing, our collected words. That is the vapor of art. In fact, one of the ways it has really struck me is that sometimes as I visit schools around this area, elementary schools especially, and tell children about that, once I mention, think about visual art as frozen music, they just get it. But to come back to the origin of this, because of that, sometimes when I make art, I will think about the music aspect of it, as well as the story in writing. So I make the painting, but I'm already thinking about music, as well as the act that can go with it. So I make art for all of the arts together, thinking it in my head. But the story of making this particular painting wasn't that noble. I didn't have such noble thoughts about all I want to use it for, because the simple truth is that it's inspired by the story that my dad told me when I was little, and my dad passed away, and the only hero I ever had in my world was my dad. So I loved him so much. All of us, his children, we love him so much. He was such a very big presence in our lives. And but he told stories to us to understand life. And like most fathers do, or most parents anyway, fathers and mothers, sometimes because you know your children, so you tell them stories, not necessarily true stories, but you told it to them because you want them to shut up about something they keep asking you. That's not bad. The thing with children is that their brains are like sponges, so they absorb these things and they remember. And so, if the story is wonderful, they're like, wow, that really gets to them. And so that was what is the story. And when we are talking later about it, I will talk in details about that. But that was what inspired it. So after he passed away, myself and my sister, we were talking about just all those stories that he used to tell us, just to remember him by. And then we laughed on the phone that, how did he even think to say this to me when this happened? And so I ended up making the painting. The painting that I shared in a lot of schools. I made it in 2006. So between 2006 and now, I have shared it in a lot of colleges, presentations, elementary schools, and the likes. And about less than a year ago, the story for the painting was sent in as an entry to the Scholastic Kids Are Authors contest. And it ended up winning the first place again.
And in that part, how did it work to were just kind of traveling around, and then how did it end up to where with that school, with those children, with that, like, to where that came together with the story?
So it was that the school had invited me to just come to speak to the kids, about character education, because that's most of the stories are like that. How to be kind to one another, how not to bully one another, how to love one another, just stuff like that. And so I did the assembly. They asked me questions, I answered, and the children in this particular school, because it's an elementary school, from kindergarten to I think 5th grade. So after I finished the assembly, I guess they liked it so much that they all said I should share one more story before the assembly is over. So I looked at the principal. He said, yes, that they are here all morning, so that's if I have any more stories. And that's when I pulled out this painting and showed it to them, and then I told the story. And after I finished telling them the story, children are wonderful people, and I love children a lot, but at the same time, they can be little devils, right? So I wasn't really expecting the kind of reaction I got from them, because I shared the story that let me just see, because now they asked for another story, so at least it will pass the time. And then they all started crying. they all, most of them anyway, became teary-eyed. And so that was how the assembly ended, and the principal said that he'd never seen the kids react that way to a speaker before, and that so this must be special. But we didn't say anything about the contest yet. What I do is after every presentation we go to do workshops, and so I started the workshop with them and throughout the day. So at the end of the day, the principal there came back and they are gifted teacher. So they now asked me that the story I shared last at the assembly, that can they use it as their official school entry to the Scholastic Kids Authors Contest. And us as artists or something like that, say, of course, do whatever you do, just go ahead and use it. And so that's how it happened. They sent it in, and it ended up winning the grand prize. Wow. And so that's I'm very thankful to this school, their teachers, the principal, and Scholastic for giving my story a chance. And Scholastic said that it's become very popular, like one of their bestsellers, even. So now that book, this same story, is being turned into a film, like an animated feature film. And so because the advice of many people that I've met too in the process of book signing and the rest, and they say that they feel many people might like to see a film about it. And so that's what I'm working on. As you know, making a film is very time-consuming, and it involves a lot of people. So I've met a lot of people that have advised me about making it, and I'm hoping that maybe before the end of the year it will be done. Soundtrack, so it has inspired music that some people wrote music for me to use in the movie. So that's part of going from one form to another, and it's also being turned into a Broadway show. So now we have a stage production of it. Just the simple Firefly story has been so people that do these shows, they have heard the story and the written part for me, that how it will be the Broadway show, and so we are developing that as well. And I very much hope that part of all that process, this maker space will be a part of it as well. That's why we are here today.
Yeah, and then we were looking at footage of some young ladies that were doing African dance, and then it was just mind blowing. Then how you were saying then that is going to be brought into like ballet type of a thing, even, and so to see these different dance styles kind of coming together and interpreting the story, interpreting one another, and and that's the neat thing where you see almost whole new dance styles coming up from a story where African, West African dance and ballet come together with this fusion of.
So like Western and African art come together. That's one of the other things, because art really is the only thing that brings us all together that way. I mean, can you imagine you are having a mix of ballet, with the African dance, visual art, you're having music that is written. In fact, one of the songs is written in the style of the Beatles, and then another song is like a core traditional African thing. So it's been a learning and a very humbling experience for me.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us and being here with us today and touring around. I'm looking forward to showing you around this space a little bit more in depth and meeting some of the other artists and installations that we have going on in town and kind of the future of art and things happening in town. So thank you so much, Ibi.
Thank you so much, Kevin. This is wonderful. Thank you.